Welcome. In this tutorial, we are now going to verify the instance that we created in the previous video, and make sure now we are able to we created already an instance, but now we're going to build the database because this instance is going to come with an empty database. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill up some few information, and then we are going to check if the database is working properly in AWS and we are able to retrieve some data. Okay, to start with this next step, first, like you can see earlier, the status is now available. So that means our database is our DB instance is available in AWS RDS, meaning we can use now this instance to create a database with our own data. Before we do that, let me first and foremost show you some few information that need to be checked before we can move forward. Let's click on this link. So here you can see the endpoint. The endpoint is this and the port is this one. So we're going to need those two information. Let me save them somewhere. Okay, great. We have the endpoint and we have the ports. We have to make sure that whenever we want to establish the connection between our database, our application database, you need to have this endpoint and this port information. Okay, so now the next step will be to, let me check one more thing, the security. I want to show you something very quick on the security group. If we need to check the inbound rules, sorry. Let's just click on edit. You need to have those inbound rules. You need to configure those inbound rules in your security group that use that instance of the DB. Okay, this need to be there. Other than that, it's not going to be able to view the traffic or to trigger the traffic. Okay, and it will be an issue. So basically what I mean is not going to be able to work. So make sure that all those rules are defined. I don't think you need all of those 5 rules, but at least you need 3 to 2 of those rules. Make sure you set those rules correctly. For me, I just inputted all the 5 ones so that I make sure it's not going to crash or it's not going to work. Everything is going to be working properly. So then you need to go to the outbound rules. Let's go on edit and bound. You need to make sure that this will have this one too. All traffic set to 000. Okay, I think this is the only thing that you need to check. From here, let's just go back to RDS. If you want, we can go back to RDS again. RDS, let's go to the DB instance. This is our DB instance. It is available. It's working on MySQL community engine. We have all the information here. Let's just click on this again. We are just going to use this endpoint. Okay, we are going to use this endpoint to establish a new connection using our MySQL workbench. So I'm going to use this endpoint. I'm going to click on my MySQL workbench. Let me create a new connection. I'd call this one AWS RDS. And for the host name, I'm going to use this. I'm going to test connection now. It's requesting the password. This is the password that we inputted earlier when we were creating the database. I click on OK. It said the connection has been successfully made to Workbench MySQL, which is great. So that means we can start using this one now. So we click on this, and let's do one thing to save sometimes. Kima. Okay, so basically we have this database already, because if you remember, we established a connection to that database, but that database is empty. There is no table. That's why there is no table. There is nothing that we can do. So what we need to do from here, because the database is already created, okay, when we established the connection earlier, we already created the database, so which is good, which is fine. So the next step for us will be to create some tables that we need. At least we need the role table. If you remember, we created those database earlier. Let me just go to my cheat sheet project database. I don't need to go there. Application database script. This is where I keep all the scripts. Basically, we don't need those two. We can just use this one here. Is that the only one thing? Yes, we just need to use this one. And also remember that we haven't launched yet our Spring Boot application, okay? So let's just use this one for now. Okay, let's just put this script over there for now. Okay, so to make it even more simple, what I want to do before we move forward with that, we already established the connection with the DB instance that you have from AWS, and it is working successfully, and we are now able to access it from our MySQL workbench. And like you can see, this database is empty because there is no table defined yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that endpoint, okay, and I'm going to use that endpoint and run our Spring Boot application. Okay, so basically what is supposed to do, if you remember, when we run this application on our local host, whenever we run it, because it is defined, the Hibernate DDL auto, it is defined update, it will directly create those tables that we need into database that are already defined in the MySQL workbench. Okay, the only thing that we need to do here, it is to replace this one, okay, and put the endpoint that we have. Oh gosh, Jesus, let me just go back. This endpoint, we need this endpoint here, because this is this endpoint, it is the one that is used by the instance. Okay, now we want to reach, we don't want to create those tables into our local database, but now it's supposed to go into the instance. Okay, meaning here we're supposed to create those tables here, and to be able to create those tables here into that particular database, we just need to define that property with this endpoint here. If you can see, let me just close it for now. So now we just replace that here. So meaning whenever I'm going to build, I'm going to install and run this application, those tables, because I'm using Hibernate, and this is not a course for beginner, either you are intermediate or professional, okay, because here I'm going fast. So because I'm using Hibernate, what it's going to do is it's going to automatically build those tables into the our Amazon RDS instance that we created earlier. Okay, we just need to make sure that we just replace the local host with this endpoint that we got from Amazon RDS. We need to put the port, and also we need to specify the database name where is going to create those tables. Okay, when that has been said, don't remember, I just commented those lines out because I don't want you guys to see your password, but you need also to define those lines in your application property. Those lines must be defined. Okay, I just did that because I don't want you guys to see my password. So when that has been said, let me clean again one more time. When it has been cleaned, now let's install. Okay, he said it has built successfully, so that means the installation has succeeded. So let me just check one more thing here to make sure that it generated the table. You see, the table has been generated. Okay, so if we go back again to the workbench, let me refresh. Where do we refresh here? I never refreshed before on this one. I want to refresh. Okay, let me just do this. Oh, let's refresh. I see the button here. Okay, when you refresh, now, like I was explaining, you will see those tables now. You see? Because now what we are doing is what? We created an instance, a DB instance from AWS. And this instance will help us to create our own database with our own tables. And the purpose of this is to make it available, reachable everywhere in the world, because now we want to go live with our application. We want our application to be reachable everywhere. So meaning we want to move our application to be live so that people can see it everywhere in the world. So to do that, we first need to move from our local database, which is only reachable from our desktop or laptop, to go to be live, meaning to be reachable everywhere else. We need to move it to the cloud. Yes, this is the exact word. You need to move it to the cloud. So to do that, we need to create a database, an instance of that database into the cloud and put it into the cloud. This is what we are doing. When this database is into the cloud, now it is possible for this database to be used by applications that are live. So the first step to do that is first and foremost to make sure that our DB it is reachable on the cloud before we can move our application, because at this the second part will be to move our Spring Boot application to be also in the cloud so they can be live and it can also be reachable. So now what we did is we used that endpoint, we created a connection, and now we created the tables. We now have tables because we are running our Spring Boot application is running now, and this is the one that which created all the tables that you can see on MySQL workbench. But when you get to this part, you need to realize that those tables are empty, right? So the second thing that you need to do, let me first make sure. Select from DB. I is not okay, sorry. Dot we need to first define the rows table, because based on that it will be able to assign each user a particular role. Okay, let's first run this. You see it is empty. As it is empty, let's now run those query one by one. Successful, so it is way down over there. Then let's run this one. Then let's run this one, the last one. Okay, so now let's check again this query. Great, we have all our rows. So this table now is defined. This is necessary. This is necessary because we are going to input some users. I don't know if this one has send copy. Seems like I will have to okay, here I'll just need to use users. We already have the role. We don't. Let's check also the tutorial table. Do we have anything on tutorial table? We don't. You see, the tutorial table is also empty. So do I need to check something else? I think this is all we need for now. Okay, so basically we have the database, but in the database we only have the role, the roles table which has data, and for the rest they are all empty. But at least now we can now play with our Spring Boot application to create those roles, to create roles and tutorials. So now let's run, because it has been installed. Yes, now it need to be, I need to run this application. Let's run it. And when it's run, after it runs, now we should be able to play with our Postman to just insert some data and see if it is working, because this is the purpose of all of it. Okay, so great job. So everything is working as expected. I mean, our application is working. So now let's check from our Postman. I always like to create admin because the admin has more privilege. So let's just send. Okay, we have this guy here. Let's just send him. This is for the admin role. Okay. No. This is login. I want to first register. Let me first register. Okay, great. Sorry guys. Okay, first let me register an admin user, because I like to have more privilege. You can basically register any kind of user, but for me I prefer going with the admin role, and then the rest is similar to that. That's why, and we don't need to make those videos too long by repeating the same things that perform exactly the same kind of operation. So I'm just going to register this user as with an admin role. So let me, I already explained those endpoints, everything. Please, if you are confused or anything, please go back to my previous video. Everything explained over there. Here I'm just going to play with that. So let me send this. I'm wondering, yeah, it's gonna work. Yes, it is working. It is working. So basically what he said, this user has been successfully registered. Let me put this operation here. Okay. So as this user has been successfully registered, now let's just log in with the same user and the same password. Let's now sign in with this password. Great. He said 2200K, which is good. That means we were able to sign in. So now as you are signed in, you can now create a tutorial. Let's say this tutorial is going to be test 1 book Java, test 1 description. Okay, description, let's say Java programming. Okay, so let me save this. Let me send that. Let's create this tutorial. Great. It has created this tutorial successfully. Text 1 book Java. We are going to verify all of those information later on. Okay, don't worry. Give me some few minutes. And then the last operation that we are going to do on the tutorial, it is to see all the tutorial present. Let's run this one. Great. We only created one tutorial, and this is the one which is already present. And then the last thing is to see the list of users. Let's see the list of users. Great. We only have one user and with the admin role, which is good. So far so good. Everything is working fine from Postman. Then let's check in the database itself if the information, if we have all the information over there. So let's check the users. How many users do we have? This is a question for you. How many users do we have? Let's run that query. We only have one user, which is the API admin user that we created from Postman. The second thing to check is the tutorials. How many tutorials do we have? Because this user created one tutorial, so we are supposed to have only one tutorial. Let's create it. Let's run it. Sorry. And here we go. Test 1 description Java programming, title test 1 book Java. So meaning the instance that we use to create which has been created from AWS is now running, is running perfect. Okay, let me go back here. Is now running perfect. So meaning if I use this endpoint and I give it maybe to somebody else, he will be able to access my data, because now those data are in the cloud. But fortunately for me, I did some security configuration so that only me, because I have the password, the username, the password, and everything, only me can access those. But basically, this database this database here is now reachable over the cloud, because what we are trying to do is to have a full stack application, a full stack running application, which will be reachable everywhere in the world. This is what we are doing. Now we are moving, we in the jargon that we use in IT, this is we call this kind of stage production, the production stage, wherever you finish to build your application from your local host, and you want now this application to be reachable by everywhere in the world. So you need to move this application into the cloud. And the first step the first step that you need to do is first and foremost to move, but it depends, this is for me, is to move first the database, because the database is the one which has all the critical information for you to perform anything from your application, any data. Okay, and what we did in this video is to move the database into the cloud. The next step will be for us to move the Spring Boot application into the cloud, create its own instance, and then we are going to do the same thing using the UI. And from the UI part, this is where we're gonna have we are going to complete our full stack application and run it. So I hope I made it clear for everybody. I know it's a little bit confusing, but we are getting there. So I will see you guys for the next video, and thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.